Most people think success is about being lucky, having the right connections, or being born with talent. But that's not the truth I've come to learn. Success is built in the quiet, unseen moments. The choices we make when no one's watching, the habits we build when there's no reward yet, and the voice we listen to when things get hard. I had to get comfortable being uncomfortable. For me, that meant learning to speak publicly. The very idea felt like a physical threat. My heart would pound, a frantic drum against my ribs, my hands would tremble, and every fiber of my being screamed at me to retreat. It was a primal, instinctual fear, a venomous voice that whispered I wasn't good enough, that my ideas weren't worth hearing, that I would be exposed as a fraud. It promised comfort in the shadows, away from the harsh glare of judgment, where it was safe. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, with a churning sea of fog below, terrified to take the leap into the unknown. But I knew that staying on that cliff meant staying small. So I forced myself to jump. I took a deep, ragged breath and stepped into the light. My first words were a tremor, a fragile thread of sound. But then a strange thing happened. With every sentence, the shaking lessened. The frantic drum in my chest found a steadier rhythm. A new feeling was rising to meet the fear, resolve. And in pushing through that wall of fire, I realized something profound. Communication is power. It's the power to connect, to persuade, to inspire. It's the fundamental tool that turns a solitary vision into a shared reality. It's the bridge between your inner world and the world outside. A bridge that allows your thoughts, your dreams, your very essence to cross the chasm of misunderstanding and reach another person. Without it, we are all just isolated islands, rich with internal treasures that no one else can see, our potential locked away within us. If you can articulate your truth with unwavering clarity and conviction, you don't just unlock doors that already exist. You create them from thin air. You build them where there were only walls. You open up pathways to opportunities, to collaborations, to versions of yourself that would otherwise remain dormant and locked away for a lifetime. Each honest expression becomes a key, turning locks you didn't even know were there. This lesson became my foundation as I stepped into the world of building and creating. It was there I discovered a quote from Mark Cuban that resonated deeply. Most entrepreneurs lie to themselves. They fall in love with their own narrative, a story they repeat until it feels like fact. They believe their idea is inherently better, faster, or cheaper, not because evidence supports it, but because they need it to be true. They tell themselves, the market just isn't ready, or if we just add this one more feature, everyone will get it. They conveniently ignore the harsh feedback, the inconvenient data, the actual reality of the situation. They build beautiful, elaborate sandcastles of belief, refusing to see the tide of reality that's coming in to wash it all away. This isn't optimism, it's a form of self-sabotage, a refusal to engage with the world as it is, not as you wish it would be. I had to learn to stop doing that, because my own sandcastles had been washed away more than once. The sting of that failure was the wake-up call I needed. I committed to being brutally, uncomfortably honest with myself. No more pretending. I started facing the truth head-on. I learned to ask the hard questions. What if I'm wrong? What is the most likely reason this will fail? I began to actively seek out dissenting opinions, to find the smartest person who disagreed with me and truly listen. I learned to treat criticism not as a personal attack, but as a gift, a compass pointing me toward true north, especially when it was the last thing I wanted to hear, even when it hurt, because that's where real progress is born, in that uncomfortable space between aspiration and reality. It's forged in that fire. Like a blacksmith hammering a glowing piece of metal, the truth beats against our ideas, sending sparks of ego flying. It's a painful process, but it's how you burn away the impurities and shape something strong and resilient. That's when I truly began to grow, not just as an entrepreneur, but as a person. The courage to face the truth in my work gave me the courage to face the truth in myself. It all came full circle. To communicate your truth to the world, you must first have the courage to face it yourself. Oprah's words taught me something deeper. Stop wishing you had someone else's gifts. I spent too long looking outward. But true peace came when I looked inward and asked, how can I serve? That shift changed everything. From that moment on, I wasn't working for applause. I was working to contribute. And when I focused on service, fulfillment followed. Then came confidence. Not the fake kind people show online, but the quiet fire inside you that says, I can do this. Robin Sharma called it a muscle. He was right. I had to train it every day, and with every rep, every challenge, every doubt I pushed through, that fire grew. Confidence is what turned fear into focus. True leadership, I discovered, often shows up not in a grand declaration, but in a profound, intentional silence. I used to think the first person to speak held the power. That speed equaled authority. I was wrong. My perspective shifted entirely when I revisited Simon Sinek's powerful lesson about Nelson Mandela, how he learned leadership by watching his father, a tribal chief, who always spoke last in every meeting. It wasn't just about waiting a turn. It was a deliberate act of creating a space where every voice felt heard and valued. By holding back, the leader communicates that the group's wisdom is more important than their own opinion. This is where psychological safety stops being a buzzword and becomes a living, breathing reality, an environment where people can be vulnerable and offer ideas without fear. The true leader doesn't need to be the first to speak, but the one who can synthesize the wisdom in the room. They listen to all the threads of conversation, connecting the dots that others, lost in their own viewpoint, might miss, revealing a bigger, more coherent picture for everyone to see. That changed how I approached people. I stopped rushing to give my opinion. The internal battle was real. My ego wanted to jump in. But I practiced restraint. I started listening. Really listening, not just waiting for my turn to talk. And the more I listened, the more I understood. I understood the unspoken fears and the quiet hopes. I saw the full picture, the entire landscape of context and nuance, not just my small corner of it. And when I finally spoke, my words had weight. They were heavier, more resonant, because they carried the weight of everyone's perspective, not just my own. My conclusion wasn't just my idea, it was idea, validated and strengthened by the process. But time was the next great lesson, and the thing I took most for granted. I thought being a good leader meant being constantly available, constantly on, a hero of responsiveness. I wore my instant replies like a badge of honor, convinced it was the ultimate sign of dedication. Until I heard T.D. Jakes say, "We've traded effectiveness for busyness." That hit me, like a punch to the gut. I took a hard, honest look at my life and saw the truth. I was the poster child for being busy, but what was I actually achieving? My calendar was full, but my impact felt hollow. I was always doing something, yet never feeling complete. I was running on a hamster wheel of activity, mistaking motion for progress, never truly moving the needle on what mattered. I wasn't living. I was managing chaos. I had become a professional firefighter for small, urgent blazes, never getting the chance to architect a fireproof system. My energy was scattered, my spirit depleted, mistaking activity for achievement. So I flipped it. I audited my time, and the results were shocking. I stopped giving 80% of my time to distractions and other people's priorities. I resolved to reclaim that time and give it back to what I was born to do, the deep work that only I could bring to the world. I became ruthless in protecting my focus, building a fortress around my most important work. This meant saying no more often so my yes could be more powerful. This wasn't selfish, it was necessary. It was the only way to deliver my best self to the world. And the transformation was immediate. In the quiet, protected space I created, my creativity came alive again. My energy shifted from frantic and anxious to calm and focused, and my purpose, once a whisper lost in the deafening noise of busyness, finally had the space to breathe. It began to roar. Somewhere along the way I started whining, not loud enough for others to hear, but quietly to myself, about what I didn't have, what wasn't working, what I couldn't do. Until Iyanla Vanzant's words challenged me, no whining, no complaining, no criticizing, so I stopped, one day at a time, and my perspective changed. Gratitude took the place of negativity. Mel Robbins taught me something powerful. The present is all we really have, not yesterday, not tomorrow, just right now. And when I brought my mind back to this moment, I started to feel peace again. I stopped living in regret. I stopped chasing the future. I started appreciating what's in front of me. The people, the breath, the life. I began to sleep again, really sleep, Not just physically, but mentally. Ariana Huffington said rest is a priority, and I finally listened. Because being tired wasn't a badge of honor. It was a distraction from my best self. And when I gave myself permission to rest, I showed up fuller, stronger, clearer. And in all of this, one thing became my anchor: empathy. Meryl Streep said empathy is the engine that powers the best in us. And I felt that. When I stopped judging and started understanding, everything softened. The anger faded, the connection deepened. I didn't need to win, I just needed to feel. This isn't just advice, it's my story. It's the path I'm walking. And if you've made it this far, maybe it's your path too. This is Greatest Lane, where we don't just chase greatness. We live it, quietly, boldly, one true choice at a time. There was a time, not so long ago, when the weight of my own expectations felt like a physical anchor, pulling me under. The world outside had its demands, but the heaviest pressure, the most crushing force, came from within. A relentless inner critic that cataloged every misstep, every perceived flaw. It whispered poison in the quiet hours, turning ambition into anxiety. I was drowning in a sea of my own making, a storm of self-doubt, and the shore felt impossibly cruelly far away. There were moments where letting go felt like the only way to find peace. I almost gave up. The setbacks weren't just obstacles. They felt like personal judgments, endless and unforgiving. Each closed door wasn't just a missed opportunity, it was a final verdict on my worth. It felt like the universe was conspiring to prove my deepest fears correct, that I wasn't meant for more. It was a constant, draining, invisible battle fought every single day. Each failure echoed louder than the last, amplifying the one before it, creating a deafening chorus of "not good enough" that played on an endless, torturous loop in my mind. It was the soundtrack to my days, the lullaby of my sleepless nights. I remember the hollow ache of late nights, lost in a thick fog of self-doubt. I would replay every mistake, searching for the exact moment it all went wrong. I was wrestling with ghosts, wondering if I was truly fundamentally enough or if I was just an imposter. I questioned if I possessed the strength to ever break through the suffocating clouds that had become my sky. But in those quiet, desperate moments, at the absolute rock bottom, when the world seemed silent and my own hope had dwindled to a single, sputtering flicker in the overwhelming dark, a different kind of voice emerged. It wasn't a thunderclap, but a whisper, barely audible yet clear and kind. It didn't offer easy answers. It simply whispered that my worth wasn't defined by my failures. It reminded me gently of the times I had been strong before, the challenges I had already overcome. This wasn't a sudden revelation, but a slow, dawning awareness, like the first hint of light before sunrise. I began to understand that the foundation I was standing on, though shaken, was not broken. Buried beneath the rubble, I discovered something powerful, a quiet, stubborn resilience I never knew I had, a strength that wasn't granted from the outside, but had been forged deep within me all along. I started to look around, really look, and I saw others rise too. Their stories weren't grand headlines, but quiet, profound acts of everyday courage. I saw the single mother, fueled by coffee and a fierce love, balancing work and her own dreams in the stolen hours after her kids were asleep. Her exhaustion was a testament to her devotion. I saw the student who saw a failing grade not as an end but as a map, a reason to study harder, to ask for help, to try again with new focus. I saw the artist, surrounded by rejections, staring at a blank canvas, who took a deep breath and picked up the brush one more time, choosing creation over despair. I saw the small business owner staring at spreadsheets that screamed failure, who chose to innovate instead of liquidate, sketching new ideas on a whiteboard with a desperate, brilliant energy, finding a new path when the old one disappeared. And I saw the athlete, injured and in pain, grimacing through the monotony of physical therapy, refusing to let their story end in a doctor's office, finding new ways to train and strengthen. They all kept moving forward, step by painful, deliberate step, proving that progress isn't always a glorious leap, but often a crawl, a shuffle, a stubborn refusal to stand still. Their strength became my mirror, reflecting a potential I had refused to see in myself. So I made a conscious choice. It wasn't a sudden burst of inspiration, but a quiet, firm decision. I would stop running from the storm. Instead, I would learn to walk through it, to feel the rain on my skin and not be afraid. This meant starting small. It meant making my bed, going for a walk, resisting the urge to self-criticize. I chose to trust the unseen process, to celebrate the smallest progress, knowing each tiny victory was a rebellion against doubt. And I chose to let every setback sharpen my resolve, not shatter it, like a blacksmith hammering glowing metal on an anvil. Every scar became a lesson, a reminder of what I had survived. Every doubt, a reason to dig my heels in and persist. And slowly I realized, greatness isn't about never falling. It's about rising, every single time, a little stronger, a little wiser. You may be facing your own storm right now. The darkness may feel absolute. But remember, every sunrise begins in darkness. Your story isn't finished. The most beautiful chapters are often written after the plot twist. You are stronger than you know. That strength isn't about being unbreakable like stone. It's about being resilient, like a tree that bends but whose roots hold firm. It's about knowing you can be put back together, not the same but more beautiful, with the cracks filled with gold. It's found in the courage to take one more breath when your lungs are burning. Your past does not define your future. The challenges you've faced are not chains to hold you down. They are training grounds. They have forged a strength and a compassion in you that you are only now beginning to understand. They have prepared you for this moment. So stand tall, even if your knees are trembling. Move forward, even if it's just 1 inch. The world is waiting for your comeback. It's waiting for your light. It's waiting for you to be what you were always meant to be, resilient. Picture this: a runner, exhausted, feet pounding against rain-soaked pavement as dawn breaks. Every muscle screams to stop, but the will to continue burns even brighter. In another frame, a young woman studies under flickering streetlights, her dreams undimmed by the world's doubts. An artist's trembling hands hover above a canvas, each brushstroke a declaration that their vision matters, no matter how many times it's been overlooked. These are not just moments, they are turning points, proof that adversity is not a dead end, but a doorway to a stronger, wiser self. Every setback you face is an invitation to adapt, to learn, to grow. The mountain ahead may seem insurmountable, but remember, every summit is conquered one step at a time. Growth is not always loud or glamorous. Sometimes it's the quiet persistence of showing up again and again, even when no one is watching. It's the courage to rewrite your story after every detour, to find purpose in the struggle, and to trust that your small victories matter. See yourself reflected in these stories. See the power in your persistence, the beauty in your resilience. You are not defined by the obstacles in your path, but by your refusal to be stopped by them. The world's greatest achievers were once dreamers who dared to keep going, even when the odds were stacked against them. So let this be your call to action. Start where you are. Use what you have. Take one unbreakable step forward today. Your journey is unique. Your dreams are worth every effort. The world needs your light, your courage, your voice. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Create it, rise, persist, and show yourself just how far you can go. Your story is still being written. Make the next chapter unforgettable. Every day is a blank page. Grab the pen. When doubt whispers, answer with action. You are stronger than your setbacks, braver than your fears. Progress isn't always a leap. Sometimes it's a single steady step. Feel the sunrise on your skin. Let it remind you. New beginnings are always possible. The world may try to define you, but only you hold the final word. Turn every I can't into I will. Success starts with showing up, especially on the hard days. Faith in yourself builds bridges over every obstacle. Your journey is not a straight line. Every twist and turn shapes you. Celebrate the small wins. They are the seeds of greatness. You are not alone. Every achiever once stood where you stand now. Breathe in courage. Exhale doubt. Keep moving. Your dream is waiting for you to claim it. Let your resilience light the way for others. Today, choose progress over perfection. You are the spark. You are the storm. You are the sunrise after the longest night. This is your moment. Step forward. Ignite your next chapter.